Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today, let's talk about React Context API, createContext and useContext. Let's dive in straight away. The context in React is a way to store some state and have it accessible to components, no matter where they are in your application or in the tree, even if it's for the entire application, to have them access that data without having to pass it through props. One of the biggest mistakes that a lot of junior developers make is to have the long chains of props, which is called prop drilling, to get data from one component to another. Having these long chains of props is really messy and hard to maintain as a code base. To overcome this issue, we are using context. So what we are going to do now is we are going to look at an application and see how we can fix it with context. Here I have a simple React application. The CartProvider component manages your shopping cart state and provides functions for adding and removing items. Add to cart adds items and remove from cart removes them from the cart. It uses the context API to let child components access the cart and function easily. So shopping cart receives these props. Let's look at shopping cart. A shopping cart is a very simple component. It receives the cart or add to cart and remove from cart as props. Let's go to the browser and see how the application works. You can add items to your cart by typing the product name in the input field and clicking the Add Product button. It's smart enough to prevent adding empty items. Your current shopping cart items are displayed in a list. You can remove an item by clicking the X button next to it. There is nothing too fancy. Let's go back to the code. The problem really is the CartProvider component. You see this component takes these props but doesn't actually do anything with them. The only thing it does is send it to the shopping cart. The first thing is we are going to get rid of these props from the CartProvider component. Now if we go back to the browser, there are some errors, but that's fine. The goal is to not pass these props. The goal is to have the props accessible from anywhere in the application. Let's get back to the code. Shopping cart will no longer receive these props, so let's get rid of it here. So now we have some components that need these props, but there are no props anymore. Now we are going to create a context to hold cart, add to cart and remove from cart props, and then wrap everything in CartProvider with that context. Then everything inside of CartProvider, shopping cart and any other subcomponents will have access to these props directly. Now we are going to create a context here. We will export const CartContext because that's the context that we are going to make, and that is going to be equal to createContext. Let's just create and wrap shopping cart with our context. So now that we have the context, we can import CartContext here, and then now we want to create a provider to provide it to the components. We need to assign a value to that. To do that, add value and then pass our cart, add to cart, remove from cart here. That's how we get access to the same props. Now we need the consumer for the provider to consume the context. The way to do that is to use a handy hook from React called useContext. To do that, let's create a separate file called usecart.js and create like this: const context is equal to useContext CartContext. Although we have access to the state for the entire application, but we cannot guarantee if any developer forgot to wrap the child component in a context provider, and if the components try to access a context, then we will get a value of undefined. We can handle this situation by creating a custom hook. We can use this hook in all of our components and get the functionality, and it's also reusable. Now we are going to create that hook. We will add a new function called useCart like this. Export function useCart, and let's add this export function inside the custom hook. And then first it checks if there is something called context available. If the context is not there, it gives you a heads up with an error message, something like use cart must be used within a cart provider. But if the context is in the right place, it lets you access the shopping cart functionality smoothly. With this, we can come into our shopping cart and add the line const cart add to cart remove from cart is equal to use cart, which will do all the functionality for us. Finally, let's add the shopping cart component here in app.js. This is the power of context and custom hooks. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more awesome content. Thanks a bunch for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.